Good morning. Welcome. Yesterday, I hope you learned a lot. Last night, I hope you lost only a little. So I celebrated my 5th anniversary here at the company just last week. And in that time, I've met with countless customers and partners. There is one topic that comes up consistently and repeatedly, and that's public cloud. Some people are all in. Others are just looking for what's available. What we want to do is provide information and answers so that we can move issues and topics like compliance and security in general from a blocker to a catalyst to move their business forward. We've established a great diverse panel for a lively discussion here. We've only got 25 minutes, so I'm going to get forward to the introductions. As Vice President of Product Marketing for Google Cloud, she's leading the strategic and operational steps for its business-oriented product offerings. Please welcome Carol Carpenter. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you.
Next, as a Senior Director of Platform Technologies for Oracle Cloud, he's orchestrating the shift of existing applications and services to their infrastructure. Please welcome Buck Flanagan.
Thanks for having me.
As an offering manager for IBM Cloud, he's focused on enhancing the platform's security solutions by building on IBM's automation services framework. Andrew Guerra. Welcome, Andrew. Good morning. Good to see you. Last but not least, our last panelist works at Microsoft as a commercial software engineering team as an architect and focuses on helping ISVs onboard into the Azure platform. Please welcome Srikumar Vetanathan. Thank you. Well, we've got a lot of ground to cover. We've got a lot of great topics. I think the why has been really covered, and it's common and it's a good practice to start with why, but we're really looking at the how and the what. So Carol, maybe a little background about yourself and Google's offering, but then how do we move customers through this transition? How does Google position to them to have these topics as a catalyst? How do you move them into the catalyst column?
First of all, thank you for having me here. It's a great pleasure to be here and to have Fortinet as one of our security partners. So Google Cloud Platform actually encompasses a lot of different products and services. There are an incredible number of products and services included. We think security has to be built in, not bolted on, which is, I think, some of the challenges of the on-premise world. In the cloud, the beautiful thing is there's a lot more ways to control access and security, and we believe that security should be a reason to move to the cloud, not a reason to stay away from the cloud. Gartner actually shared some statistics last year around the cloud actually having 60% less vulnerabilities than on-premise. So we think the cloud is actually a safer place to be, where the cloud providers provide all the built-in security, the infrastructure, take vulnerability management. With the recent Spectre and Meltdown problems, we were able to patch our systems immediately without any downtime to customers.
That's great.
So I think those are the kinds of things that are proof points and the catalyst for enterprises to realize that the cloud is a better place to be.
Yeah, I really think it's important that we remove those base level security issues and focus on the advanced threats where we really all want to be in that focus. That's great. So migration is a key component of this shift that most organizations now accept that they'll live in something of a hybrid world. So where do you see, Srikumar, Microsoft has a great brand and a good start in this industry. So where do you see the primary focus and the need in that migration strategy?
Absolutely. So to a large extent, movement of data into the cloud, both at the start and pretty much like moving data continuously, both from an on-prem world onto Azure, and could be like any cloud for that matter. The data ingestion part is something which is definitely a challenge that we are trying to solve. We are There are certainly many creative ways in which you can actually move data onto the cloud, and this is one area which I think will need and will definitely see a lot of innovation coming in, a lot of changes coming in the near future as well.
And Buck, you've got, in the world of Oracle Cloud, there's certainly a very large shift that's underway. Anything you'd like to add to that?
Sure, and great to be at Accelerate 18. Thanks for having us here. You know, Oracle's somewhat unique in the enterprise business in that we offer software as a service at the top of the cloud stack powered by our platform services, the ubiquitous Oracle database and our middleware technologies, and entering the infrastructure business or IaaS at the bottom of the cloud stack has allowed Oracle this vertical integration along with our partner ecosystem. And as we see the strategic options that customers are looking at around the world today, being able to accommodate that migration, everything from moving to a software as a service type of infrastructure through reconciling what they have on-prem today. And to do that, we've really concentrated on utilizing the same standards, the same openness, and the exact same technology that people are running in terms of Oracle technology as well as other third parties and open source, to be able to have that forward compatibility, bring your past and also build your future for cloud native development. So being able to cover that spectrum, do it in a fashion with partners like Fortinet where we can go physical to virtual form factors, for instance, on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. That's been a big impetus for people moving and migrating to the cloud. And it's not an either or on-prem or public cloud. So being able to have a phased roadmap where you can still have that hybrid type of environment. But companies like Fortinet, we think, are at the forefront of being able to do that physical to virtual shift, and that's where we're seeing a lot of growth in that type of topology. Yeah,
I mean, as we see hybrid IT as really the standard moving forward, our vision is that security is consistent. We have a consistent security posture regardless of deployment model, regardless of deployment location. Andrew, IBM Cloud has a very interesting approach to this, given its history and current status, but anything you see specific to that in the way that you architect and what you're looking for or talking to customers about?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, thank you, John, and I'm Andrew Good, again, offering manager. And to situate IBM Cloud a little bit, I'm particularly over my charter is the VMware and IBM partnership. But overall, I think that puts me, and I think that puts IBM in a clear space where we can build this dichotomy between public, private, because really that private hosting model and strategic outsourcing type of deployments have been IBM's bread and butter. So we've learned a lot over the years of what it takes, and then more so what it takes to begin that journey. So for us, I think conceptually, we like to bucket it very simple. It's connectivity, right? Is my network optimized? Within this migration story, do I have this and can I offer clients this optimized connectivity? Security, security from the design of the data center up through the services and the software stack that you deploy. So ensuring that the data centers are compliant, your ISOs, your SOC 1, your SOC 2s, and making sure that that's all blended into the services and the SLA that we're going to market with. And then the last thing I think is portability, right? Ensuring that we have a similar story to the processes, the tooling, the APIs, the frameworks that you're seeing on-prem and utilizing today, and then building into not only obviously multi-cloud, but IBM Cloud specifically. But I think that story between those three principles is key. And then more importantly, the story that the partner that you choose to progress this strategy with needs to have that same story. So when you look at your partners and your vendors, and obviously we're building with Fortinet today, that portability, that security, and that connectivity is really important in making sure that they're headed in the same direction that we all are.
Yeah, no, that's great. So go back to the idea of cost. We've moved into a model, certainly it's come from the consumer world of pay for what you use. And this is really, I think, the new norm, and that people don't want to buy something that they may or may not use fully. So consumption-based billing. And I'm wondering, Carol, how do you fit that in? Do you see that as the new norm? And then how does that fit into the Google Cloud platform?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in an era of customer choice and customer options where many customers moved to the cloud in the early days for seemingly cost and elasticity. Yeah. And then they actually found it really wasn't, they moved from CapEx to OpEx, and it wasn't quite the same equation that they thought. And so I think there's this whole paradigm shift of how do we pay for what we use and use services that really matter to a company, whether they're some of the serverless options or database as a service, that companies want to be able to predict and control those costs. So there's also that factor. Yeah. So that's what makes, I think, consumption billing a little bit tricky for some large enterprises. We believe at Google Cloud, it's all about giving customers that choice. We were the first with per minute billing and per second billing, and we're going to continue to innovate because we think it is really about, as we lower our costs and drive our infrastructure costs down, we want to be able to convey that and give that to customers.
Yeah. And Andrew, I think from IBM's cloud perspective, this is a new concept. But how does your architecture embrace the idea of that consumption, if you think it is the new norm?
Yeah, absolutely. It is the new norm, and I think more specifically, it's dissecting where that new norm is going to be placed within the strategic vision of what you're using cloud for. So even though the consumption method might benefit a specific workload, there's obviously constrictions around this, let alone buying, budgetary cycles, a lot of things that you have to consider beyond just the technical application of it all. So from our position, I think generally what we like to do is look at it from a, can we make it flexible in the type of model that's needed for the client for that workload? And if I just look at licensing, for example, something that seems kind of commonplace, but where you can bring a lot of value to. And so when we look at that flexibility of bridging BYOL with a consumption model, with a consumption infrastructure, how do you take that business process out the client's hands and unify it? That's a very compelling story. So we like to say that we look at it from that perspective, and we build with intent in that way.
Oh, that's great. And Sri, I know this is new to some people and to some customers that sometimes shocks me, but the idea of buying a virtual application, a virtual appliance like a FortiGate and deploying it somewhere, you brought up to me the idea of a managed application. I'm curious if you can elaborate on that a little bit.
Absolutely. This is something unique to Azure, I think. So the concept of managed apps, so it gives you, as a publisher of an app, right, so it gives you the ability to basically not only publish the app that gets installed in the customer subscription, but it in turn gives you access to actually control the app as well. So the biggest advantage that I see here as an end customer, the biggest advantage that I can see, and both as a ISV that is like deploying the app, it gives you the ability to basically control the app itself, right? So I don't have to be an expert in managing any of the security-related appliances. For example, like configuring a FortiGate, configuring a FortiWeb. So I don't have to be a real master to actually use that. So I can let you guys pretty much manage the app, do all the configuration settings, and take a cut on that for manageability and supportability as well. So, but as an end customer, I can see that the network virtual appliance has been deployed on my subscription. I will pay for whatever that comes along with it, and pretty much not have the headache of managing the app.
No, that's great. That's an interesting offering.
One thing that I just wanted to quickly add, especially on the consumption model, is IT as a utility, or that utility model. Certainly it's the new norm for things going forward. You also need to take into account, and I'm sure a lot of the partners and the channel, the folks that are in this room here, are taking into account the business model where you still have a significant investment. How do I reconcile that with a utility model going forward? We've offered some very appealing types of business models within Oracle to move to our cloud. Not only your Oracle estate or those technologies you might have invested in a CapEx or a traditional license model, but bring your own technologies to our cloud, as well as this whole third-party ecosystem. So it's the right business model to fit the right juncture as people are making this pivot.
Yeah, so you add flexibility to that capital investment then. So if that capital investment is made, it's relieving that idea that it's a sunk cost and saying we can flexibly apply it to other applications, right?
Precisely.
That's a great offering. This started, and the major shift was due to what people thought was just, unlimited CPU and storage. And over the last 12 to 24 months, have you seen that shift change? I mean, I guess I'll ask you first, but I'd be curious from Andrew as well. Have you seen that change? Have you seen customers change that motivation?
From a strictly cost-driven, yeah, absolutely, because there's the overall value proposition for what the cloud can offer. Continuously driving, especially maintenance cost or some of the lower level items, and this is where, Oracle has been relentlessly looking at automation or delivering autonomous services. Our self-driving database or the autonomous Oracle database that we launched, and other elements not only at the infrastructure layer, but platform services and the software, those back office and front office mission critical applications, that's a big part of our business. So continuously driving that cost so our joint customers can invest more in innovation, and take that maintenance burden and put it out there to hyperscale vendors that are devoted to that, I think has been a big driver. But a couple of unique things that we've been looking at as well recently is price performance. It's not just cost, but price performance, and the predictability for enterprise-grade types of workloads. Having a design point that we've built from our bottom of our infrastructure up is meant to drive the enterprise as the key element of that. So it's cost as well as differentiated services, not just the commodity renting of some compute and storage. So we think that that's, especially at the top of the enterprise, and when you look at the security space in general and where Fortinet's going, I think that it's pretty congruent, both the value and the cost equation for the differentiated integrated offerings that you have.
Andrew, have you seen a change or a shift in that motivation?
I haven't seen it. Maybe a shift in the motivation is how I would classify it. I would more maybe say just a different tone to the conversation, right? We know the elasticity there. We know the resources are there to do specific things, and we talk about innovation, we talk about development and so forth. But at the end of the day, there's dollars and cents, right, that come, and a lot of these decisions are still obviously all made on those premises. So really, when we look at what the conversation has shifted to, it's the ROI spotlight or flashlight, if you will, is moving around a bit now, right? Now you have the security teams in the conversation. What does the ROI look like for the strategic move to the cloud? You have compliance teams. You have a whole different conversation, which now leads to a different quantification if you look at just the economics of what we intended the promise to be, which was infinite scale of compute. So I think putting these pieces together, shift, change, absolutely, right? What does it mean? A lot of reevaluation. We scaled, we did a lot of things in the cloud, has the ROI there. The security conversation has changed the last 3 to 4 years, the tone of the investment and what that means to the P&L. So absolutely, I think all these pieces we're learning together. That's why I think it's key to build with the right partner, and it's absolutely key to know that conversation needs attention now more than it probably did in the past.
Yeah.
If I could just build on what Buck said, I think that there's something really there's a real phenomenon there, which is the decision to move to the cloud is not only, in at least my conversations with major enterprises and CEOs and CISOs and CTOs and CIOs, it's now about how do we drive that innovation in our business? How do we compete? How do we deliver better experiences to our customers? And less about just getting the cost down or managing it, and that's certainly still a component, but that's the table stake part. The part is how do we drive innovation with higher level services, whether they're data and analytics, AI, how do we actually apply it to our business for competitive advantage? Yeah. And I think that is really what the promise of all of this, taking the headache away, that's the promise we have to deliver.
Focus on what's important. That's it.
And do it quickly and securely.
Yeah, and we've got to bring it back to security. That's, of course, our topic. And instead of I'll take user access control is one example of this, just to make it direct. But instead of people having an application or something separate, there's a lot of what the cloud can do in conjunction in marrying these applications to make sure that security is seamless. Sri Kumar, I'm curious from the Azure perspective, what are some of the top things you see there from the security front that complement and work with Fortinet solutions?
Right. So overall, I think the ability to quickly integrate into a managed application world is something that's going to be pretty unique. That's going to help not only help the customers adopt the security products, but also like help maintain and kind of like keep their life a lot more smoother. So overall, like from a Microsoft platform standpoint, our integration with developer tools, with Active Directory, with Office 365, pretty much like everything tied together and working seamlessly is something that's pretty unique.
Yeah, and do you see the same? I mean, Google has an interesting approach, and certainly, a company so prolific, it's a verb. So, what are some of the opportunities that you see in the space?
Yeah, well, we've had many years of experience building up those consumer services and running that infrastructure, and that's what we're bringing to the enterprise now, which are these hardened services, including identity and access management, which is what you're talking about here, which IAM, we believe, is a feature killer. And it's also a feature killer, meaning it can bring so many benefits in terms of the control and ability to update and the agility for an organization. And at the same time, it can also be the feature killer of your business if everybody from the internet has access to your cloud storage buckets and your data. So we think we take it very seriously. We've invested a lot. We've built it in. We actually have multi-factor authentication. We have SSO for SaaS applications built in for free on top of it. We believe that the cloud itself needs to be secure and that we need this partner ecosystem because most enterprises are in fact in a more hybrid, in varying states of their journey.
Multi-cloud,
hybrid cloud, it could be in different states. And where they are in that path, we want to try to meet them. And for us to meet them, that's why we have terrific partners like you all.
That's great. And this shift, it is complicated to some, and it does take work. A lot of what we've seen is the need for migration partners, and a number of them are here as systems integrators and MSSPs. I'm curious, Buck, from your perspective, what do you look for specifically? What are the key either areas or attributes in those partners that can really help accelerate this shift?
Sure. So the role of the partner in the Oracle cloud strategy and ecosystem is crucial, really as a last mile in general, as it relates to, and a lot of the folks in this audience here can probably attest to, having the discipline or the practice, especially as it relates to security and working with CISOs and network architects and those types of people within those roles, but also in the broader context with the line of business. So we see the profile of partners that we have, not only the major global integrators, but a lot of specialists that I've been working with that are taking the baseline, utilizing, seeing Oracle cloud infrastructure and our platform services, they see that as their software-defined virtual data center behind their MSP offering, and then being able to add on and tailor this, like I said, that last mile into the market, as well as technology providers that, when you talk about migration, how can we take third-party workloads, open source workloads, in addition to the off-the-shelf tools that you get with Oracle technologies for our database, data migration. So we see a broad spectrum of partners. Specifically in the security space, we see managed security service providers, the MSSP market, as an area that we're getting some good traction in.
That's good. And orchestration becomes a key, similarly, orchestration becomes key. And I'm curious, Andrew, from the IBM cloud perspective, are there specific attributes, or, not looking for specific names, but are there attributes in those orchestration elements that you're looking for, or that have been really receptive by customers?
I would say, there's different solutions we could point at, but I think that the theme we're seeing is standardization across the selected solution, and more of a push from that than we've seen before. So I'm just going to touch on the migration story a bit, and where IBM sees this, and what we look at it is in the partner ecosystem to ensure that, we almost call it a data story, right? To ensure that data story is understood on both sides and our partners, and it's not, an infrastructure conversation, it's a data classification. It's what am I going to do? Where's it living? Who's going to have? All of this end to end. We call it a journey, but there's very specific things. So I think the competency is something to be not disregarded, right? When you're looking out in the field. But as far as a tool set or different things we need to land on to work with partners, I would say more is what are those common standards, and are this, and I used the word earlier, right? Portability. Are you at least using frameworks that other clients and other even multi-cloud strategies. We look at that. Can you extend? Because that's just a reality. It's no longer binary. We no longer can work in a framework of proprietary, right, sort of notion. So I think at the end of the day, those are the type of elements that we're looking for.
Yeah, and Google certainly holds a key element in the idea of automation, right? That's a lot of this. I mean, is there anybody specific or any arena that you see specifically taking off?
Yeah, I mean, the whole area of DevOps and DevOps security has obviously been
it's big.
It's garnered a lot of attention, and there are a lot of new tools and ways of working. I would say, you know, we're at Google Cloud, we're committed to openness, and we believe that at the developer level, we think open source is really important for setting standards. We think that feeding the community new tools and services that we can provide that others can build upon it drives that portability that Andrew was talking about. And so we've developed and exposed a whole bunch of solutions via partners, because at the end of the day, I mean, what we've discovered, and I know you guys know this, it's not just about the technology, it's about the people and the process around it, and that has been the friction point for most enterprises. So taking those tools, opening them up to the partner community, and allowing them and helping them to drive the customer success.
Yeah, no, that's good. You know, and a part of this is the fulfillment model. Most people are familiar with essentially the two options: bring your own license, or a BYOL, or a marketplace on-demand type. How do you assist or enable, Sri Kumar, from that idea of partners and resellers, where they may feel as though their connection to their end customer is widening? How do you address that from an Azure perspective?
As much as we pay a lot of importance to the Azure Marketplace, I think from Microsoft sales perspective, we do emphasize a lot on the enterprise agreements as well. So which kind of like helps bundle all the Microsoft services together, and pretty much like cloud is a component of all the services that you can think of. Let's say, for example, like developer services or Office 365, everything is kind of like bundled along with Azure. So when you have a committed amount for a period of time, you always that always helps you to reduce cost, and pretty much like helps you to test and build your strategy across the wide range of products that Microsoft as an organization has.
Yeah. And we're actually running short on time. I had a couple other questions, one regarding bare metal or that platform as a service. The folks here will be here for the rest of the day. They'll be in the Tech Expo. We've got some solutions architects as well. I'd encourage to make an introduction, ask these questions. I had one question, which was, you know, do we see this trend slowing down? But I think that's rhetorical, right? We know that this is going to continue to grow. It's an exciting part of the business. So I want to say thank you to each of you. You're not only partners, you're all Fortinet customers. So thank you for that. This is a tremendous space. I want to thank everybody for their time. And with that, I'll turn it over to Darren Turnbull, who's going to come up next and talk about Fortinet Roadmap. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.